Hi fellow artists, my name is Lauren. I am the artist behind Potato Art Studios, and in today's video I'll be demonstrating how I drew this butterfly. So if you're interested in seeing a behind the scenes look at how I sketched and colored this butterfly, just keep on watching. To start off, I typically draw a 1-inch grid on my piece of paper, and I use the grid method to transfer information from my reference photo onto my paper. If you haven't seen my video that I did that explained in more detail how I set up my files in my photo editing program and transferred that onto my paper, I'll leave a link to that video up in the cards and also in the description box below. But basically all I do after I draw my grid is go around my drawing, and in each square inch I copy the information I see on my photo that also has the same layout and just draw what I see. So I'm going around the whole butterfly and just mapping out the main features that I am looking at. And I like to use the Prismacolor Kohl Erase Pencil for this, so I don't have to press very hard and it's easy to correct any mistakes that I make. And when I want to refine my drawing even further, I'm making 1/2-inch grid marks, and I'm using a green pastel pencil to make those 1/2-inch marks so I can tell the difference between the 1-inch and 1/2-inch marks. And so all I'm doing is mapping out some of the larger spots, the outlines of the wings and the body. I'm not getting too detailed on the butterfly. So after I drew my sketch the first time around, I'm actually going to go over that same sketch again and correct any features that I put in the wrong place, because now I have, because of the 1/2-inch marks, I have more reference points so I can pinpoint the details even more accurately than I did in the first round. So I'm just going to go around the butterfly again and darken any lines that are accurate, and if they're not accurate, I'll just simply erase it with my kneaded eraser and correct it. And I found that the kneaded eraser, which is that gray ball that you see me use throughout the sketching process, that kneaded eraser is really good at erasing marks, and it does it a little bit better than normal erasers, and I think that's because of the texture of the paper I'm using. With normal erasers, the pieces of the plastic eraser actually get stuck inside of the paper, and the kneaded eraser does not, because it's the tacky surface of the eraser can pick up the pencil really easily. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but I am using Pastel Matte, and it's made by a brand named Clairefontaine. And I think this paper, I haven't tried many pastel papers in the past, but this has been one of my favorites so far because of the texture of the paper. It allows you to put a lot of layers, and you can also get your colors to show up very bright on this paper. And so normally I try to do the background color first, but I was so excited to start the butterfly that I kind of just went straight for it. So I colored in the larger white spots, and now I'm getting into the orange, late orange yellow in the body. And I don't have an orange pastel pencil, which would be ideal in this case because the butterfly is pretty detailed. So I'm actually using that eyeshadow applicator and rubbing it on my soft pastel sticks, and then using that eyeshadow applicator to deposit the color onto the paper. If you haven't seen my past video on tips how to use pastels, I'll have it linked in the cards and also down below. But in that video I explain in more detail the tools that I found that I like to use while using pastels, and that eyeshadow applicator and the soft tool have so far been my favorite ways to blend pastels. When I'm working on the background, I can be really messy. As you can see, I'm just making scribble marks on the background, and it doesn't really matter what direction I make them in. And I can afford to be messy because I know how my soft tool blends out pastels. And the soft tool is that light blue palette knife looking tool that I'm holding, and it has a sponge tip applicator that you can replace when it gets too dirty. But basically, I just use that soft tool almost exclusively for the background, and it works really well at creating smooth blends and nice even transitions between color. So once we have that background in, I can go back into the butterfly. So we're just filling in those spaces in between the spots and the center of the butterfly. And I'm using my pastel pencils almost exclusively for the butterfly because it's a fairly detailed subject. If you're looking for a good way to sharpen your pastel pencils, I would recommend the Boss Stitch Quiet Sharp 6. That's the sharpener I've been using for the past month to sharpen my pastel pencils, and I have the Carbothello and Faber-Castell Pit pastel pencils, and I haven't had any issues with my pastels breaking at all. And I know that's a main concern for a lot of pastel artists out there. But I'll link the sharpener I have and you can check it out. And so now we're getting into doing a little bit more detail. So when I'm blending out smaller details on the butterfly's body, I'm not using that soft tool. I'm basically only using the eyeshadow applicator, and that's because I don't have a small enough soft tool to work in a confined area. And only now I'm putting in the lines and the fine details, and I've held off on doing these detailed areas because it wouldn't make sense to do them early on. With how I work with pastels, I do a lot of blending in the early stages. So if I were to draw all of those tiny details in the beginning, they would have all been blended out into basically nothing by now. So when I approach pastel drawings, I kind of think of it like you're starting off by drawing a fuzzy, blurry image, and then slowly, as you keep working at it, you sharpen that image by adding more and more details until you get your final result. And so here's a good example of using the soft tool. I was experimenting adding some brighter colors to the background, and you can see that soft tool acts basically like a really strong blur tool, and it blends that background, all those colors I added in the background, very easily and very quickly. And I'm just cleaning off my board periodically so I don't have too much pastel dust building up. And now I'm working on the butterfly's left wing, which is now on the right side of the paper. I flipped my picture and also my drawing 180 degrees so I could work on the other wing. And so you can see with that sharp light gray pencil, it's really easy to make those tiny details on the wings. And so because now we have the base colors of the butterfly already nailed down, we can go in and start adding the texture on the butterfly's wings. So in my reference picture, I noticed that there between the border of the yellow and the black on the butterfly, there were these black dots. So in order to get that same effect on my butterfly, I sharpened my pastel pencils to a very fine point, and I kind of just press the pencil into the paper. And because the pastels are quite soft, you just have to press the tip of the pastel pencil into the paper and it'll deposit color. So it's kind of like working with pointillism where you're just making a series of dots. And so I'm doing that around the white spots and also on the center of the body, the butterfly. And you'll notice that the leaves that I have in the background aren't matching up completely with the reference picture, and I did that because I didn't want the center of the image to be the butterfly and the leaf. So I actually moved the leaf that was near the butterfly's head over about an inch so that the butterfly could kind of just be the star of the picture. And so when you're drawing or when you're trying to think of a composition, don't feel like you have to follow your reference picture 100%. If there are small changes you can make that you feel will help your subject be the main focus of your drawing, you should try and do that. And that would, I think, moving that center leaf over a bit actually did help the butterfly, because the light yellow in that leaf I felt was a little bit too close to the color on the butterfly. And so now we're just putting in a little bit more texture and detail on the butterfly's body. Again, it's important to have your pencil sharp. And near the end of the drawing, I like to go over the whole subject with my lightest and darkest pencils, and that's just to really fine-tune the darkest and lightest colors. So in this case, it's the black and the white on the butterfly. So I want to make sure the highlights on the butterfly's body and also the spots on its wings are nice and bright, because during the drawing process they can accidentally get a little bit dusty from the other colors around it. One reason why I rotate my drawing 90 degrees is because I'm right-handed, and so the arc that I can naturally make with my wrist is a C-shaped curve. So for the butterfly's wing, instead of trying to awkwardly position my arm to draw the outline of the butterfly, I just rotate my drawing so that I can more easily make those shapes. So don't think that you have to keep your drawing in one particular position. You can always rotate your picture and rotate your drawing so that it's comfortable for you, because you really don't want to put any unnecessary strain on your wrist and your arm. And so I think we're just about finished up here, and I think we're done. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to comment down below and I will do my best to answer them. Again, a list of all of the materials and tools that I used will also be in the description box below. If you're not following me on Instagram, I'll have my Instagram handle up on the screen. And I post a poll on my Instagram stories every Monday asking my followers what they would like to see me draw next. And so this butterfly was the winner of last week's poll. So if you'd like to have a say in what I draw next, make sure you give me a follow on Instagram. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and that will tell YouTube to recommend this video to other artists interested in drawing butterflies or working with pastels. I do post a new time-lapse video every Tuesday, and so make sure that if you subscribe and turn on your notifications, you'll be notified when my next video is up. I also post bonus videos sometimes on the weekends where I have just a short art tip video. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.